All right, good morning, everyone. We are now today, week two is over. We're going to recap week two, waiver pickups. Today, as usual, Jed over in suburb of Illinois, and Jimmy is over in Oklahoma today.
Yeah, I'm in here at the conference.
Yeah, Jed, did you enjoy the games yesterday, Jed?
No, I was so excited to have two Monday night games, but we were just talking about how, both were really blowouts. And I think it was kind of disappointing. The Minnesota-Philadelphia game, felt like it confirmed a lot what we saw with Philly last week, which is really great. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, even I think Sanders to a degree. But Minnesota, we were just trying to figure out what is wrong with them. So, obviously Kirk Cousins, there were some miscues there, but then also Dalvin Cook, the low usage rate of Dalvin Cook, and I have him on at least one team, two teams actually, and that's pretty concerning. So, but again, just like last week, you saw a lot of big trends from last week to this week, and things just are really in flux. So these first 2 weeks, you have to still kind of hold the things a little bit and see how they play out, but it's definitely concerning if you're a Minnesota fan.
Yeah, Jim, even in terms of this, Jalen Hurts, a lot of times. Look, some of you guys may have picked up in the 8th or 9th round. How good is he going to be, Jim? What do you think of Jalen Hurts?
No, they've done a great job. Philadelphia's done a great job surrounding him with the right players, right? Like they got Devontae Smith that they drafted, A.J. Brown as a big-time receiver, even Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert. He's done really well this year. So I did trade Tommy because I had an extra quarterback, so I traded him Jalen Hurts. But actually, it was pretty good because I gave you Jalen Hurts and you gave me Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I feel like we're pretty even.
Oh, yeah. I know Jimmy likes Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we're going to talk about him a little bit. Hey, Dallas Goedert at 5 catches, 82 yards. But, as much as he doesn't get the touchdowns, Jed, we were just talking about Miles Sanders, 17 carries, 80 yards. It's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad.
He's better than most people realize. Nobody thought that he was going to do much of all of this year.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say most people probably drafted him pretty low, and so you're getting good return on value. So yeah, he's somebody I think right now it looks like I missed on because I definitely was passing on him for sure.
Yeah.
Jim, going to the next one in terms of the other game, Ryan Tannehill, it was a brutal night, all right? People were calling for Malik Willis to come out here, and he actually did play, ended up playing the last quarter. But Derrick Henry did not do well. What do you think of that one?
No, I was actually surprised because Tennessee's a pretty good team, right? And so I actually would not be surprised if Malik Willis came out sooner rather than later. He came in, did 1 of 4 passes, 6 yards, 4 carries for 16 additional yards. So my guess is they might roll the dice and bring out Malik Willis to come out because at least they give him. If you look at what Tua did this past week, Lamar Jackson, some of those running quarterbacks at least give them some sort of chance, right? So they might see the same thing with Malik Willis.
Yeah, I think too, to me, the storyline for both games, really, if you think about it, is the impact of A.J. Brown because I think A.J. Brown not being in the Titans really just shows that, he was opening up so much for them, and now he's doing that in Philly. I do agree, though, Tannehill, you don't have that same, running kind of threat. But still, I feel like Derrick Henry, they did not, I thought he was going to be, he got that touchdown early. I thought he was going to be off to a really nice game, but they kind of went away from him. Obviously, they were down by a lot, so that dictated it. But I feel like if they can get back to establishing that run game, Tannehill will be fine. But we all know he's a big play action pass. So if you don't have the play action, he's really not as effective.
And Treylon Burke did decent, right? But I think it's still going to take some time. He had like 8 or 9 fantasy points, but I think it'll take some time. But I think he'll be a decent receiver at some point.
Now, Jed, you have both Dalvin Cook as well as Derrick Henry on your dynasty. If things go back, are you going to keep them this year, or what are your thoughts about your running back situation?
Oh, no, I think I don't know. Dalvin Cook, definitely. He's pretty young. Derrick Henry, I feel like is starting to get up there a little bit, but we'll see. That's why I said it's just 1 week. I'm not going to freak out over 1 week yet. But I think with any dynasty teams, that's the whole thing. When you have really good workhorses like a Dalvin Cook or a Derrick Henry, you have to figure out when to pull the trigger, right? And you want to be like the Patriots. The Patriots are always known for sending away veterans 1 year too early, which is better than doing it 1 year too late. And so I think that's the same thing, right? Like you got to figure out when to get rid of those guys.
Jim, I know we're going to talk a little bit about waiver wires. On the Buffalo side, look, Jared Allen he's worth the third-round draft pick. We've talked about him. More so, I want to get your thoughts on James Cook, 11 carries, 53 yards. Does that give you some hope with the James Cook going forward?
Yeah, I've actually been, I don't know what you guys think. I think you might have dropped him, right? Did you drop him?
I dropped him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, after the first game, he fumbled, didn't see him again. But you're right. I think we keep talking about this. By the second game, you start seeing some trends, and James Cook might actually be somebody that's going to be fantasy relevant this year. I didn't think that after the first game, but he's still got potential. If you watched him during the preseason, he did pretty good, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought he looked good during the game too. It's interesting though. I thought Singletary looked good too. So I don't know. I don't know what it is about him that's better, but
Yeah.
he did look good.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to be the backup. My guess is going to be Singletary 1. Then it's going to be James Cook at some point during the season. Zach Moss will be 3 because
Sure, yeah.
less and less they're going away from Zach Moss.
Yeah.
Jed, one more thing in regards to the Minnesota game before we go to the Sunday games. Talk to me about Adam Thielen, 4 catches, 36 yards, and Smith, 5 catches, 36 yards, but 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I'd feel better about Smith. I mean, he was getting open. Unfortunately, Cousins was missing him. Thielen, again, I feel like it only works for him when the other side's going well, when Jefferson's doing well on the other side. And so he was someone we talked about. I don't know, you guys remember, we talked about, I personally was down on him. But he has the pedigree, he has the history, so you feel like he can do it. But I think things right now in Minnesota, they got to figure out the passing game right now. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season.
Yeah, Jim, Tom Brady calls the Mike Evans suspension ridiculous. Look, they were out there. He's now suspended 1 game. Julio Jones was a scratch. Chris Godwin was a scratch. Who's left? They just literally signed Cole Beasley.
Yeah. I actually think that's a really good sign because remember, he's been on the free agent wires for a while, and people keep asking, are you going to sign with the team? And he says, I'm only going to sign with the perfect team. And so I think honestly, being with Brady gives him a great option because he's that Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type of player. Now Rashard Perryman is what he's done pretty decently. Leonard Fournette could do better, but I think my guess is I anticipate a bounce back coming into Green Bay. So.
Yeah, and this to me is a little bit of an indictment on Scotty Miller. If you guys watch the game, he dropped a couple passes, and
he's usually pretty consistent, Scotty Miller, right? The last couple of years, he's been decently consistent.
Yeah, so I felt like he had a bad game, and I think that a little bit led to this. But I'm hoping that Julio will be okay because I think there could be a lot of points there for him to eat up, especially with the suspension. Did the appeal go through? Do you guys know if the suspension got?
No, he just filed it. They haven't told him when the hearing's going to be. But some people think that they may they might let him off, but I don't know. Yeah. But this week was crazy, because between Gabriel Davis, Julio Jones, there were a couple other people. There were a lot of last-minute DNPs for some of these players.
Hey, look, on one of my teams, I have Chris Godwin, I have DeAndre Hopkins, I have Keenan Allen, all of that stuff. I had no wide receivers. Everyone's out. Hey, a lot of times we don't talk about IDP, but how good is Devin White, linebacker? First game, 7 tackles, 1 sack. Yesterday's game or Sunday's game, 7 tackles, 2 sacks. The guy's really, really good. Playing alongside Levante David.
Yeah, 17 points. The last couple of weeks, he's gotten me double digit in terms of fantasy points. So those are points that I needed.
Yeah, and I'm waiting on Shaq in Indianapolis to come back. I'm hoping he plays this week. I need him.
I will say, guys, as you're going, the worst is, I've had a couple of teams where I played the wrong players this week, and I ended up losing. I gambled with the Paris Campbell, and those are the worst. Those are the worst defeats when you have the players to win, and you end up losing this.
Yeah, for me, it was Tony Pollard. I had Tony Pollard sitting on the bench, and I should have played him. I forgot who it was over, but yeah.
Jed, speaking of Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott is averaging only 3.5 yards a carry. He's been terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, are you going to try to trade him, or are you just going to keep him?
Oh, I've been trying to trade him across the league. I'm hoping
Yeah.
someone will bite and just love the fact that they love Ezekiel Elliott in the name and suddenly make a trade for me.
No, because here's the problem, right? And I'm going to take a quick break. You got Ezekiel Elliott, but then I was looking at it. You also have Godwin, you have Hopkins, and you got somebody else, right? So you have 3 players who are injured, who's going to eventually come back. You don't want to drop them, but then you also got some dead weight in Ezekiel Elliott. So it's almost like you have to trade him for something or get some sort of asset back.
I need to trade 2 players for 1. That's exactly what I need to do.
Yeah.
So, Jed, Trey Lance out for the year. Jimmy Garoppolo is back in. Do you like the fact what does it say about Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, all of those guys? Hey, there's no running back as well too over in San Francisco.
Yeah, no, I actually like it for if you were, especially Ayuk, if you were hoping for Ayuk, I think this elevates, your perception of how he's going to do for the rest of the season. So I actually think it's a good thing for the team in general. I was surprised that they were making the change anyhow. Felt like it was a year too early. So I think for all the skill players, it's good. I didn't see how Jeff Wilson Jr. did.
He did okay. He got double digits in the early teens, 11, 12 points. So he did okay.
Yeah,
so
hey, I'm really hoping when George Kittles comes back.
Oh, did he freeze or is it me?
froze.
Oh no.
No, it's him. But I mean, I think going back to Trey Lance, you're right. People are saying that with Jimmy G playing quarterback, you're going to see more consistent production coming out of Ayuk. You're going to see more consistent production coming out of Debo, and even Kittle. Because the thing is, I think they had a higher ceiling with Trey Lance, but there was a lot of unknown factors for him.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it'll be interesting if this puts him in a really potentially sticky situation, right? If Jimmy G plays well and then Trey Lance comes back, then what happens? Like if, let's say, San Francisco gets to like the divisional championships or something, what happens? It'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I actually think, from a championship, I think they'll be fine. I think San Francisco is actually going to be fine because they're going to be the better. It's going to be between them and the Rams because Seattle's not going to do anything in that division. So
Yeah. Did you get to see any of the last second games? This weekend was perfect for that. There were 3 games that teams were down by double digits with less than 2 minutes to go, and they came back. Did you get to watch any?
I was watching. Do you think Garrett Wilson is going to be the real thing for the Jets?
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that comeback was insane. And actually, for anyone who, was mad at Cleveland, so I don't know if you guys saw the thing about, the fans in Cleveland. There were basically tons of fans wearing number 4 jerseys in support of Watson. And then they even had a mannequin who was getting a massage. Really? Did you see this?
No,
There's
I didn't
picture
see it.
out in the parking lot. There's a mannequin getting a massage, and they have a sign that says "Happy endings are not illegal." It's horrible. So people are like, "What is wrong with the Cleveland fans?" And so it felt a little bit like karma, right? They're ahead by almost 2 touchdowns with less than 2 minutes. They lose the game to the Jets. I mean, Garrett Wilson, he definitely, it seemed it's just with Flacco back there, it's hard to really say.
Yeah, but so if you looked at the New York Jets players, right? Hall, who's the rookie running back.
Yeah,
you got Garrett Wilson. I actually think Hall is going to eventually replace Carter, and we knew he had some pretty high expectations coming in, but he actually ran pretty well. I mean, he broke some pretty good tackles, scored some good points. I mean, he's a good running back.
Yeah, he's someone to target because I'm sure a lot of people dropped after that first week. And as people, there's injuries, people are having to, thin out their benches. And I definitely think, we talked about Hall. He should have been drafted in any of your leagues.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I actually wouldn't mind. And then the other game to look at, I will say, going back to that Miami game, I did not expect anything. I did not expect anything from Tua this year. And that's one of the reasons why I stayed away from Hill and I stayed away from Waddle because I was like, I think he'll be fine. But Tua's always going to get injured. So that's why I stayed away from him. But I miscalculated this year for them.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if he stays healthy. But yeah, Miami has been impressive. That's definitely, I think Tua, we're talking about pickups. I think Tua will be one of the popular pickups for anyone who needs a quarterback. But you basically both Hill and Waddle almost had 200 yards each, which is just insane. So, I mean, you can't expect that kind of output, but it's definitely a good sign. Miami starting 2-0. That division is so interesting now. It's so competitive, right? You have Miami, Buffalo. The Patriots actually could come in last if the Jets, pick up anything. The Patriots could be in last, which would be insane. But it's an interesting flip for that division.
I'm looking at the headlines, Jed. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. Like Zach Wilson he's ruled out for week 3, but he's gonna see more work coming this week, and they're hoping in the next few weeks, maybe potentially week 4, 5, or 6, he'll come back. Does that change your mind about any of these Jets players?
No, I don't think so. I mean, hopefully that he could come back and actually still be an upgrade. So if anything, it just suggests that things would keep getting better. We talked about the beginning of the year. I've always avoided the New York teams. This is the year it feels like, with Saquon Barkley with the Giants and then here with the Jets turning things around. You definitely have to start to look there to get more players, and it could really pay out. So no, not for me. I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah. Who's the folks you're picking up this week from the waiver wire?
So I talked about Tua. That is one pickup that I'm looking at because I had Dak Prescott on one of my teams. So I think that's one guy I'm looking at. We talked about Paris Campbell on Indianapolis. And I know you're saying how, well, he's a drop. It felt like people were saying, okay, now Pittman's back. I think all of the Colts, you have to be a little cautious. If anyone's going crazy, it was a worrisome game to have to score no points against Jacksonville. Definitely worrisome. But we just had to see. I still think if I have the Colts, I'm holding out. Michael Pittman as well. I'm still hoping for that. One other person, and then I'm curious who you're looking at, but I think Isaiah McKenzie. He's still. I know that Buffalo wasn't going as far, but I've seen some people have been dropping him, and I feel like he's still someone that you could look at as well.
Yeah, I mean here's a couple like quarterbacks, right? I'm looking at outside of Tua. I actually really do, and I do really like Carson Wentz. I think Wentz is actually still out there in quite a few leagues, and I actually think, especially this week, he's playing Philadelphia, right? So it's going to be a revenge game. So if you're looking for a quarterback, I think Wentz is the person you want to go. Jared Goff is actually pretty good. The last couple weeks, the first week he had close to 20 fantasy points. This past week he had 34 fantasy points. I actually think, look, if you need a flyer, Jared Goff is the person you might want to take a look at as well too. And then Garrett Wilson's out there, Ryan Mostert, from the running back, or Raheem Mostert, the running back, I think might be good as well too. So
and Darrell Williams too on Arizona. I'll mention that because I think Connor got hurt, or is it Connor that's in front of him? So Darrell Williams out in Arizona might be another, at least a running back.
Okay, so I do, right? I think there's 2 running backs you want to look at. You got Benjamin and you got Darrell Williams. And actually, if I were to choose between the two, I actually choose Benjamin. Yeah, Tom, we're talking about waivers.
Got it. Hey, I think a lot of times I love Garrett Wilson. He has done a very, very good job. Former Ohio State guy. And a lot of time now, I am surprised Joe Flacco is doing as well as he's doing. I did not anticipate Joe Flacco would be throwing so much.
Yeah, but I was telling Jed when you logged out, or when you got bounced off, Zach Wilson is making some progress, and so they're expecting him to come back either game 4, 5, or 6, right? So be watching out for that because Wilson might bring a different dynamic to the team.
Yeah. Speaking, I wanted to show you this one. John Harbaugh. Okay, I know a lot of times everyone's looking at the Miami game. Number one, this is where I'm trading Jalen Waddle right now. I am trading Jalen Waddle to anyone who will pick him up at an all-time high, and I'm trading for J.K. Dobbins because he's still not playing, and I still have high hopes for J.K. Dobbins when he comes back. Thoughts on that?
Tommy's a gambler. By the way, I don't know. You never know. Jalen Waddle, I still don't trust J.K. Dobbins. Sometimes when these running backs come back after a year of being away, it takes a while for them to kind of get their legs. And I think if it were me, I would try to keep a Jalen Waddle because that's consistent production. You're trading for somebody who's unknown that you're hoping will do pretty well. But if you can get a couple players out of that might work out.
Yeah. So now, Jim, here's where my dilemma is. Here's all my wide receivers: Jalen Waddle, Deebo Samuel, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have so many wide receivers. My running backs, Javonte Williams, Ezekiel Elliott, and J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah,
The-
you
the-
need a running back.
Yeah, but the problem you also have is you have a lot of players who's injured, right? Who's going to potentially do well for you down the road. But can you keep going at this rate without giving up one of those players? Because at some point, once you start getting into those weeks where players are not playing, you're running out of people to use.
Yeah. Usually, if I can hold off without getting itchy finger, I'll wait until the week before playoffs or a couple weeks before, and I'll trade 3 for 1 and get me that running back to now win the championship. That's usually my strategy.
Pretty smart.
Yeah.
Jed, let me just ask you a quick question. Indianapolis, what's wrong with Jonathan Taylor? What's wrong with the Indianapolis Colts? They're 1-1, actually 0-1-1.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. It's definitely concerning the fact that they got blanketed by, they got a big goose egg with Jags. So, yeah, I don't know. We have to see. I don't know if it's like I haven't watched those games, so I don't know if it's a Matt Ryan issue or what's going on. But especially Jonathan Taylor, you feel like they should be able to just feed him and get back on track. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Minnesota. I feel like these teams got a little bit pass happy and they need to return to the run game and really understand that.
I'm not that concerned about them because, think about it. Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator for Doug Peterson, right? Peterson knows what Frank Reich is going to do. And so he had the playbook. And because Peterson was really more involved with the defense and they played against each other all the time, I think he just kind of knew how to play against Frank Reich and get better of him.
Yeah, Michael Pittman, optimistic that he will be playing this week as well, too. So just watch that as well, too.
Yeah, Paris Campbell lost a lot of games for us. He had 0 points.
With everyone now, everyone thought that Paris Campbell would do. He was terrible, absolutely terrible. We talked about Garrett Wilson as well, too. Lamar Jackson. If you had a chance to pick between Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, who's the better quarterback? Are those two the two top quarterbacks right now?
No, because I think Josh Allen's still number 1, right? But Lamar Jackson, I think because it's a contract year, he's been motivated to play harder. I still think that Jalen Hurts long term will be the better quarterback, but they're all doing pretty good this year. But I still go for Josh Allen.
Jed, are we going to see Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon back and forth? 1 week, one guy does really well. The other week, another guy does well. Aaron Jones, the Packers, as usual, will beat the Bears.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones had a huge game. I hope not. I hope that you see a little more consistency from Aaron Jones, but there's no question that A.J. Dillon has been effective. And so, that was always the risk in drafting Aaron Jones. You knew that he had Dillon right behind him. My guess is both players should be rostered. I think in a lot of games, you will be able to play both. I think you feel safer if you have Jones, but I do think Dillon's right there.
My best trade deal, I got Aaron Jones this past week through a trade, and I'm very happy that I was able to get him.
Who'd you give up?
You know what? I don't know. I traded him to Jalen, so I got to double check.
Yep.
So,
and speaking of that, Jim, again, let's look at a defensive player here. Man, did this guy do well? Aiden Hutchinson, 3 sacks as a rookie. He did very, very well for the Detroit Lions. Yeah. And Jed, Allen Robinson, he actually scored a touchdown. He did okay, and the Rams looked very, very good.
Yeah, finally, it was a nice. He got the first touchdown in the game, so that was good. It was, again, I think probably more importantly is just the fact that they clearly were trying to get him involved early and often. So I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, I think if the Rams have any chance of kind of winning it this year or doing well, they're going to need Allen Robinson. Cooper Kupp's going to get his passes, right? But they're going to need Allen Robinson to be a big part of the receiving game.
Yep. Allen Robinson, 4 catches, 53 yards. Now, at the same time, as usual, I love my Cam Akers. 15 carries, only 44 yards, but he should have gotten that touchdown that Darrell Henderson ended up getting. But I still have high hopes and still believe in a Cam Akers.
Make me a trade offer, Tommy.
I did.
I want a running back. That's what I'm looking for.
I got it. Okay, Jim, speaking of that, on the other side with Atlanta, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so that's the dilemma I'm going into, right? Because I've got Kyle Pitts in quite a few of my teams. I've also got Drake London in quite a few of my teams. So Drake London's been doing great. The
Oh
problem with
yeah, he looked good.
Drake London's been sitting on my bench the last few weeks because I was like, there's no way he can continue this production. And I keep playing Kyle Pitts because the worst thing you can do is replace Pitts with a backup, and the next day he's going to go off because he could potentially go off. So I think the thing is, I'm going to keep playing him, but I'm hoping that they start being more intentional about making some passes towards him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have Kyle Pitts. I had him last year. You guys know I have him in Dynasty. He did this last year as well. He started off slow because a lot of defenses were really double teaming him, and it took the offense a little while to figure out how to scheme for him and how to get him open. And I feel like it's the same thing happening this year. But I think the arrow is pointing up. I'm very happy with Marcus Mariota. I'm happy with Drake London. I think that is perfect complement to Kyle Pitts. So if you can get a hold of Pitts, I would trade for him.
Would you guys do that if there was an opportunity to trade for Pitts right now? Would you try to do it?
Yeah. I'm trying to make trades and see if I could get him at a lower rate with people trying to give up on Pitts or concerned about Pitts.
Yeah. But Drake London's been great. I mean, 20 points. Week before that, 15 points. I mean, like he's been doing pretty good.
Yeah, Jimmy, you made me that trade offer, and that was my whole thing was I wanted to see this game because again, week 1 is always like a little iffy. This was the game I want to see, and the fact that he was targeted so much, had such good production, I really feel like he's a solid number 1.
Yeah.
Let's go through a couple of things. We did talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. He will make additional money every single time that he plays. If he wins, he gets $350,000. If he makes a start, he gets $250,000 as well too.
Isn't that crazy that these people are getting $350,000 just to play in a game?
Yeah, I was reading that basically that injury means that he's going to make an extra $5 to $6 million this season.
Yeah. I was reminded. Do you guys remember how many picks they traded to get Trey Lance? The San Francisco, they traded a lot of people for Trey Lance. So,
Amon-Ra St. Brown that we've talked about. James Conner, Jim, or actually James Conner, even though Arizona won the game, James Conner avoided serious ankle injury, but he just did not do well this past week.
Well, that's what we were saying, that you got to look at Williams. Although Jimmy likes the other, I'm forgetting his name.
Benjamin. I like Benjamin.
Yeah, that was a great game. If you guys watch that game again, though, this is the Kyler Murray show. I mean, in Arizona, that team is going to go as far as Kyler Murray's in. I was watching that game, just unbelievable. I mean, really, you wonder why he got paid so much, and people talking about his preparation, but he just does things. If you saw the throw for the 2-point conversion, they replayed it twice and showed the window he threw that through. It was basically the same size of a football, so it was amazing.
Jed and Tom, okay, you'll find this. I watch some of the Arizona. In Arizona, I watch the local. This is an interesting comment that Kingsbury made. Right, Kingsbury. They said, what did you do differently? And all Kingsbury said is, I learned it's best not to coach Murray and just let him do his thing, right? And so I think the first couple of weeks, what they tried to do was to put him into a system. Sometimes for guys like this, from a fantasy standpoint, just let him play. My guess is that's what they end up just letting him do towards the second half.
Yeah, he just needs people who can catch the ball. I mean, if you saw that, AJ Green caught that 2-point conversion, but earlier he dropped what would have been a major, what thought was going to be the touchdown to get him back in. So as long as once he gets Hopkins back, I think you're going to see major production. So actually, Murray could be another guy to target too, if anyone's down on him.
Who's it? Gorch? Gorch has been like the leading receiver for the last few weeks, but you're right. I think if they had Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Gorch, they got Zach Ertz. I think these guys would be good. I actually go back on Benjamin. I think he'll be a good running back.
And then on the other side, Devontae Adams, were you surprised at how bad he was? Only 2 catches for 12 yards.
Yes, yeah. For the Raiders, that was definitely concerning. I was trying to figure out how they were taking, if they were double teaming him to take him away, but like how come they couldn't open the top off? I was waiting for them to get him really downfield, and they just could not get to him.
Yeah.
It's not like the Arizona Cardinals are that great of a defense.
Yeah. But it does make me, I still think the offense for the Raiders are pretty good, right? And a number of people have dropped the Hunter Renfrow. If you look at the waiver wire. Hunter Renfrow's on a number of waiver wires. He actually might be somebody you might, because he gives you at least some consistent points as well too. If they're going to keep double teaming Devontae Adams like that.
Yeah, and he gets a lot of targets, so I agree. Or if anyone is down on Devontae Adams, that's a great person to go after.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing to note, Dalton Schultz will miss a couple of weeks, but he won't miss significant time after MRI reviews only an injury to his PCL in his knee. All right. All right. So, Jim, let me ask you a quick question. Here's my favorite guy that I'm going after. If you had to pick between Amon-Ra St. Brown or Christian Kirk in your dynasty, who are you picking?
Amon-Ra St. Brown. Christian Kirk's going to be good, but I still like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah. What do you think, Jed?
Sorry, what was the question? I missed it.
Who do you like more, Amon-Ra St. Brown or Christian Kirk?
As a dynasty pickup.
That's a tough one. I like St. Brown. I'll say I missed on St. Brown. I heard about him all preseason, and I was like, this is the Detroit Lions. I'm going to really hold down and wait. But, man, he looks pretty darn good. And we saw Christian Kirk. I mean, we kind of knew with Christian Kirk in Arizona, he was really, going to be the next guy. They just couldn't hold on to him. But I feel like St. Brown, he could be solid number one all the way through.
Yeah. A couple other things I want to quickly go over, and then as we wrap up here, the numbers from the Chargers games for Amazon exceeded. It was going to exceed 12.5 million people. That's a pretty good showing for this Charger Chiefs game for a Thursday night football game.
Yeah, and given all the complaints that people had about the stream, you just hope that they fix that. But again, when it comes, I'm in this industry, in the comms industry, right? And when it comes to getting eyeballs, there's nothing that competes with the NFL. That's why they get so much money, because that's what those huge numbers.
Jed, the other thing I realized, they were talking about from Amazon that they can charge advertisements higher, because whereas like a direct TV or cable, you can move to other channels. If you're watching Amazon, you're stuck in Amazon, right? It's not like you can go to anything else. And so that's actually been interesting for them to look at from an advertising standpoint.
Well, on top of that, Amazon, don't forget, they can link all of that watching to purchasing. So they have much more data on the back end to tell you. So they can basically help your advertisements in a lot more targeted fashion. So if this works, do not be surprised to see others try to dip their toe into this, because this makes, in my industry, that's always the link. It's how do you link between viewership to actual purchase behavior? Amazon's doing that pretty seamlessly.
Yeah. Well, they were saying this is just the beginning, right? Because these NFL contracts are coming up, right? And the way Amazon's doing it, it's going to change how we view things even in the next 5 years. The Foxes of the world, the NBCs, the CBS of the world, they might not have the money to compete against the Amazons of the world.
Speaking of that, DirecTV, 2 straight weeks of Sunday ticket streaming difficulties. They can't seem to get their act together. And so that is, unlike Amazon, DirecTV continues to mess up all the time. Now, if I were Amazon, if I was Comcast, I'd be coming up with all of these commercials or YouTube TV to say, switch to me, because we won't have these issues. And also another thing, did you guys hear about this story? Did you guys read about this story?
No, what's going on?
Okay, so a lot of times Bruce Arians was on the sideline.
Yeah, I saw him.
And the whole thing is, their explanation is they ran out of seats in the owner's box, and as a result, he had to be on the sidelines. And everyone's sitting there, no, he's not. He's sitting there calling plays.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I did. I saw him during the broadcast, and I was like, wait a second, what is he doing down there? So, oh, wow, that's really
They said they ran out seats in the owner's box, and as a result, he had to be on the sidelines. And so as a result, then this Allen is sitting there, he's not even a real coach. Why are you putting him on the sidelines for?
Wow, that really gives a lot of intrigue into the whole influence of Tom Brady and what he likes and doesn't like down there. I feel like that whole situation is going to blow up eventually. It's that's a little scary.
He has marriage
Which
problems.
one, the Brady one?
Yeah, I think Brady and the Bucks, it's just so many things I think have to go right for that ship to kind of really be headed in the right direction. I don't know. I would be a little concerned.
Yeah.
No, honestly, but my only thing is this is his last year. So you would think that he's going to work hard to make sure that he at least wins somewhat his last year.
Now, beginning this week, he has every Wednesday off to do personal things. And so that means he could go anywhere he wants. So they were just announcing, Ian Rappaport was talking about is every single Wednesday, he now has a day off to do whatever he needs to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, any more waiver wires you're looking at this week?
No, I mean, I think the biggest one, right? I'm just looking at it right now. Garrett Wilson, I think it's going to be top on everybody's list. I think who is it? Carson Wentz is going to be a top on everyone's list. I like a Jared Goff, because of some of the weapons that he's got around him. What do you call it? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. James Cook, is somebody. Traylon Burks is out there. Raheem Mostert is out there. There's some decent players out there that's still out on the waiver.
If Tua was out there, is he your number one quarterback you're running out to get?
I mean, if I need a quarterback, right? Like I have Justin Herbert right now, and I actually threw a waiver wire on him. If I get him, that's great. If I don't, I'm okay with it. But you never know. I mean, we might all be wrong, and Tua might be the best quarterback by the end of the season.
I mean, I think there's a lot of options. I think Tua is a good option. Like you said, I think Carson Wentz has been a really solid option. Jimmy G is back now. So I think there's a lot of different options. You don't have to fret and overpay. But if you're in a dynasty, yeah, Tua could be a pretty good pickup.
If you need a tight end, pay attention to Gerald Everett. Even though he got gassed and got that interception, look, they were throwing to him, and he did pretty well. Gerald Everett, take a look at him.
And Gesicki had a touchdown.
Gesicki, yes. Gesicki had a very good touchdown.
And you know how many people dropped him? Gesicki's out there in a lot of leagues.
Yep. Well,
yeah. But by the way, people are coming in, and I think they're listening to me trying to figure out what I'm doing.
That's hilarious. It's like,
all right,
what meeting?
We better run. We'll talk on Friday.
Okay, good to see you.
Yeah.